Welcome. You've joined us for another deep dive, and today we're tackling something you might not often hear about, but it's really a key piece of the puzzle when it comes to your overall vaginal well-being.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
talking about enterocele and how it connects to your health down there.
It's true. We often focus on, the more obvious things like infections maybe,
Right.
but the actual underlying structural support, that's just as critical.
Yeah.
And enterocele, well, it really highlights how these physical shifts can have a whole range of effects.
Okay, enterocele. Let's unpack that. So if I'm picturing this right, it's literally when part of your small intestine starts to bulge into the top of the vagina.
That's the one. It sounds a bit unsettling maybe,
Yeah, definitely sounds not ideal.
but it's actually pretty common. It happens because the muscles and ligaments, the ones that normally hold your pelvic organs in place,
Mm-hmm.
they can weaken.
Weaken over time.
Yeah, over time, or for a few key reasons. Childbirth is a big one. It can really stretch and strain those tissues. Then there's chronic straining, maybe from like ongoing constipation or if you've done a lot of heavy lifting over the years.
Okay.
And, just the natural aging process, tissues lose some elasticity, even previous surgeries in that pelvic area can sometimes play a role.
And what might you actually feel if this was happening? Like, what are the signs?
Well, women often talk about a feeling of pressure in the pelvis.
Pressure, like a heaviness.
Exactly. Heaviness, general discomfort, or sometimes even feeling like something is bulging down into the vagina,
Okay.
especially when you're standing for a while or you're active.
Right.
And it can cause other issues too, like making bowel movements more difficult, maybe a persistent ache in your lower back,
Oh, interesting.
and even making intimacy uncomfortable or painful sometimes.
Wow. So it's not just a localized thing. It really can have these like knock-on effects.
Definitely.
So our goal today is to really understand how this shift, this intestinal bulging, how that can disrupt the delicate balance of vaginal health.
And crucially, what can be done about it?
Right, what you can do to manage it and support things.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because while the root cause is structural,
Yeah.
right, the consequences ripple outwards to comfort, tissue integrity, even that super important vaginal microbiome, the good bacteria.
Okay, let's dive into that then. How does this downward pressure actually create these ripple effects? Maybe start with the physical side, the pelvic pressure and tissue weakness.
Yeah, okay. So the most immediate thing is that physical pressure.
Yeah.
Just imagine a constant, maybe gentle, but constant push from above. It can feel like fullness or just a nagging discomfort, a heavy feeling right there.
Okay.
And it often gets worse, when you move around or during sex. Sometimes it's actual pain or irritation.
Right.
And over time, this sustained pressure, it can actually cause tiny little tears, micro tears in the vaginal tissues.
Ouch.
Yeah, which can lead to inflammation and just makes the whole area more vulnerable.
That makes sense. Constant pressure isn't good for any tissue, really. Now, you mentioned the microbiome. We talk about that a lot, that whole ecosystem down there. How does an enterocele mess with that?
It's fascinating how connected it all is. See, the vaginal microbiome, it needs stability to thrive.
Uh-huh.
And an enterocele disrupts that stability. For one, the inflammation we just talked about, from the pressure and irritation, that can upset the balance of good versus not so good bacteria.
Like disturbing the soil in a garden.
Kinda, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it harder for the good stuff to grow. Also, that pressure can sometimes affect blood flow to the vaginal wall. And good blood flow is vital for healthy tissues. And, you guessed it, maintaining that microbial balance.
And I'm guessing hormones factor in here too, especially with age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially postmenopause. The natural drop in estrogen already causes thinning and weakening of the vaginal wall sometimes.
Right.
So you combine that with the extra pressure from an enterocele. It compromises the tissue even more, and it can really reduce the population of those protective lactobacillus bacteria.
So it's like a double whammy.
It can be, yeah.
Okay. And when that lactobacillus balance gets thrown off, what kind of problems tend to crop up?
So zooming out a bit, a disrupted microbiome means fewer of those good guys, the lactobacillus. Think of them as like the security guards.
Right.
They produce lactic acid, keeping the pH nice and acidic, usually between 3.8 and 4.5.
Uh-huh.
And that acidity keeps unwelcome bacteria and yeast in check. So when lactobacillus numbers drop,
Infections become more likely.
exactly, we see a higher risk of bacterial vaginosis, BV, that often comes with that noticeable odor, irritation, changes in discharge.
Okay.
Yeast infections, too, with the classic itching, burning, thick white discharge, they become more common.
Right.
And there's even a suggestion that the pressure from the enterocele might contribute to UTIs, urinary tract infections, possibly by making it harder to empty the bladder completely. Retained urine can be a breeding ground for bacteria.
It really does sound like a whole chain reaction of issues.
Can be.
You also mentioned chronic inflammation earlier. How does the enterocele contribute to that being ongoing?
Well, just that persistent physical pressure, maybe some friction from the bulging. Yeah. It can lead to this ongoing sort of low-level inflammation in the vaginal tissues.
And that's bad because...
Because chronic inflammation further weakens that protective barrier. It can reduce the natural elasticity of the tissues, makes them more sensitive. Just generally more prone to discomfort and infection.
So it's this cycle. Pressure causes inflammation, which messes with the microbiome and the tissue health, which makes things even more vulnerable.
You got it. That's the cycle.
Wow. It really underlines why having a healthy vaginal microbiome is just so critical, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It is your first line of defense, truly. A strong community of lactobacillus is like a built-in security system.
How does it work exactly?
Well, they constantly work to maintain that acid pH, making lactic acid. They help keep the vaginal tissue healthy, resilient, better able to handle little irritations. And just by being there, they crowd out the bad guys' harmful bacteria, yeast. They even produce some natural antimicrobial stuff. Plus, a balanced microbiome supports the local immune response, too.
So, for anyone dealing with an enterocele, focusing on supporting and maybe restoring a healthy microbiome seems like, well, a really vital piece of the puzzle.
It's absolutely a key component of managing the condition, and improving overall vaginal health. It's about helping your body's natural defenses work as well as they can.
Which brings us nicely to this idea of a more holistic approach.
Yeah.
If we're thinking about managing enterocele and supporting vaginal health together, what are the main strategies?
Well, first off, and maybe most fundamental, is strengthening the pelvic floor muscles.
Like Kegels.
Exactly. Exercises like Kegels, if done correctly and consistently, can make a real difference. They help support the organs, potentially lessen the prolapse symptoms.
Oh, okay, so strengthening from below. What else?
Second, nurturing that microbiome, like we just discussed. This is where probiotics can be really helpful. And when you're looking for one, you want variety. Strains like Lactobacillus acidophilus, Rhamnosus, Reuteri, Plantarum, maybe a Bacillus coagulans too. They all contribute slightly differently to repopulating the good guys and lowering that pH.
Got it. And what about tackling that chronic inflammation we talked about?
Yeah, good point. There are some natural ingredients known for anti-inflammatory properties. Things that can be soothing, help healing.
Like what?
Well, aloe vera comes up often, and reishi mushroom too, for their calming effects.
Okay.
Then, to help prevent those recurring infections, some natural antimicrobials might be considered.
Such as?
Things like oregano leaf extract or caprylic acid. The idea is they can help keep unwanted bacteria and fungi levels down, hopefully without disrupting the beneficial bacteria too much.
Right, sort of targeting the bad guys.
Exactly. And of course, just supporting overall vaginal tissue health through good nutrition is always important.
This sounds like a really well-rounded strategy. Now, our sources mentioned a specific product, Balance Complex, in relation to this. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, a Balance Complex is described as a comprehensive vaginal probiotic supplement. It seems formulated specifically to target some of these key issues we've been discussing, in the context of enterocele.
So the idea is it tackles multiple things at once.
That seems to be the goal, yeah. A multi-pronged approach, addressing microbial imbalances, inflammation, tissue irritation. Kind of a holistic way to support vaginal health and ease discomfort.
And what are some of the standout features or claims made about it in the source material?
Well, it's highlighted as the original vaginal probiotic. Apparently has been on the market over 10 years.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and sold a lot, over 15 million capsules mentioned. A key point seems to be the high probiotic concentration, 100 billion CFUs per gram. Plus, it includes cranberry and demon nose.
Oh, for urinary health.
That's the connection they make, yeah.
Yeah.
Often associated with supporting a healthy urinary tract. It also apparently has a ton of positive reviews on Amazon, over 17,800 five-star ones mentioned. And it's described as a maximum strength blend with 17 strains. Also noted as non-GMO, made in FDA-registered GMP-certified facilities, and it comes with a 100% money-back guarantee.
Okay, quite a few points there. Let's dig into some of those key ingredients. The probiotic blend, first we mentioned some strains earlier. Which ones are in this complex?
Right. So the blend includes Lactobacillus acidophilus. That's a well-known one for helping create that acidic environment harmful bacteria don't like.
Okay.
Lactobacillus rhamnosus, often linked to boosting immune defenses, maybe reducing infection risk. Lactobacillus reuteri is suggested to have anti-inflammatory properties, possibly supporting tissue healing. Lactobacillus plantarum is mentioned for antioxidant effects and contributing to overall tissue health. And then Bacillus coagulans, that's a spore-forming one.
Spore-forming, what does that mean?
It means it's thought to be more stable, maybe survive stomach acid better. The idea is it helps promote a more lasting microbial balance and resilience.
Interesting. And it also has that cranberry and D-mannose blend you mentioned. Why those two together?
Yeah, that combo is really focused on urinary tract health. Both cranberry and D-mannose are believed to work by making it harder for certain bacteria, like E. coli, to stick to the lining of the urinary tract.
Ah, so it's about preventing adherence.
Exactly. And that could be relevant with Enterocele if bladder emptying is sometimes incomplete, potentially raising UTI risk.
Right, tackling interconnected issues. What about the other ingredients? Oregano leaf extract, caprylic acid?
Oregano leaf extract is in there as a natural antimicrobial. The aim is to help target less beneficial bacteria and fungi without, wiping out the good bacteria the probiotics are trying to build up.
Okay.
And caprylic acid is another natural substance, often used to help manage yeast overgrowth, contributing to a balanced environment.
And I see protease and cellulase listed. Those sound like enzymes.
They are, yeah. Enzymes that help break down biofilms.
Biofilms.
Yeah.
What are those exactly?
Think of them like a sticky shield or fortress that certain harmful bacteria can build around themselves.
Ah, okay. Like protection.
Exactly. It makes them harder for your body's defenses and even probiotics to reach. So, including these enzymes aims to help break down those shields, making the probiotics potentially more effective.
That's a really interesting detail. Okay,
Yeah.
What about some of the others? Aloe vera, arabinogalactan, and those more herbal-sounding ones.
Right. Aloe vera leaf is there for its soothing and healing properties, aiming to calm irritated tissues. Arabinogalactan is a type of prebiotic fiber. It can also help support the immune system.
Okay.
Then you've got a few herbals. Anise seed, noted for antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. Black walnut hulls, thought to offer antifungal and antibacterial protection. Wormwood, traditionally used for immune resilience and balanced flora. And Reishi mushroom, known for potential benefits in reducing inflammation, supporting tissue repair, and boosting immunity.
It is quite a comprehensive list. Each one seems chosen for a specific angle related to vaginal health, especially when dealing with something like Enterocele.
That seems to be the intention, covering multiple bases.
Okay, stepping away from specific supplements for a moment, what about just practical, everyday things someone could do to promote good vaginal health and maybe help manage Enterocele symptoms?
Good question. Well, as we touched on, consistently doing those pelvic floor exercises is really key.
Right, the Kegels.
Yeah. Staying well hydrated is also good for overall tissue health, helps with UTI risk too.
Makes sense.
And it's wise to avoid heavy lifting, things that put excessive strain on that pelvic floor.
Okay. What about hygiene products?
Definitely choose gentle, fragrance-free products. You really want to avoid irritating that delicate microbial balance.
Good tip.
And finally, diet-wise, eating plenty of fiber can help prevent constipation, which reduces unnecessary pressure down there.
These are all really actionable steps, things you can start doing right away. Now, the source material also mentions something called vaginalquiz.com.
Yes, vaginalquiz.com, vaginalquiz.com. It's described as a quick online quiz. Science-backed, apparently.
And what does it do?
The idea is to give women a personalized snapshot of their vaginal health. Takes under 2 minutes, they say.
So if you're having issues...
Yeah, if you're experiencing things like recurring infections, dryness, odor, just general discomfort, the quiz could help you understand potential underlying imbalances.
And what do you get from it?
After you take it, you get a customized analysis of your vaginal health profile, maybe some insights into what could be going on, and expert-backed suggestions tailored to your symptoms and lifestyle.
Like suggesting certain habits or supplements?
Potentially, yeah. Habits, maybe supplements, things that could help restore your natural balance. It's positioned as a convenient way to get some initial insights, without necessarily rushing straight to the doctor.
So kind of a tool for self-assessment, getting some preliminary info.
Exactly. A starting point for learning more about your own individual situation and maybe identifying areas to focus on.
Sounds like it could be a helpful resource for anyone curious about their vaginal health, maybe not sure where to begin. Okay, bringing everything together then. It feels like while an Enterocele can definitely create some, significant challenges.
I definitely can.
Taking a proactive and comprehensive approach is really the key message here.
Absolutely. By focusing on supporting that healthy vaginal microbiome, addressing inflammation, promoting tissue resilience, women dealing with enterocele can definitely take meaningful steps.
Steps towards feeling better, improving quality of life.
That's the goal.
So as you're listening and thinking about everything we've covered today, maybe consider how this information connects with your own health journey, any concerns you might have.
Yeah, and that actually brings up an important point for everyone listening. Given how closely pelvic floor health and overall vaginal well-being are connected, what's maybe one small step you could take, starting today, to better support this delicate balance in your own body? Maybe it is looking into those pelvic floor exercises we mentioned, or paying a bit more attention to the ingredients in your hygiene products, or maybe just taking that quick online quiz to get a little more insight. It's really all about taking an informed, proactive approach to your own health.